Welcome to Defense Matters, where we are talking mostly IDP, all fantasy football. I'm your host, Jordan Rains. How's it going, guys? At 50 Shades of Drunk on Twitter. I'm a senior writer at Dynasty Nerds, and yeah, that's me. I hope you guys are doing well. We made it to week 7. I can't believe it. Week 7, the season. I mean, we're almost at that official halfway point. Some people in your leagues are giving up. Most people, hopefully, are still grinding it out, trying to get a win or two. And if you're 1-5 right now, there's still hope, but it's work now. It's a little less fun, but I hope you guys are sticking with it. I'm happy to have you here with me. Thanks for joining me. As always, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell if you're on YouTube. Leave a comment, review, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. That would be awesome. And like always, the mission is to provide high quality defensive fantasy football content for listeners weekly to help them make the best decisions for their team week in and week out. So that's me. That's what I'm about. I'm happy to be here with y'all. Like I said, I got a couple of announcements before we jump into the week 7 rankings and news and notes and stuff. Friday, tomorrow, October 23rd, I'll be on the Fantasy Football Discord server doing another Ask Me Anything. So if you guys want to hop on there, I believe that starts at 8:30 Eastern time. So I'll be on there for an hour, going through answering questions like I did before the season started. That's a good spot to go. I hang out in their IDP chat room over there, or server, a lot. So if you guys have questions and comments, you can find me there. Also, you can find me at the Destination Devi Discord IDP channel. That's another spot I like to hang out, help the guys out over there. And then the IDP 411, which I mentioned before that I was going to take some time away from. Turns out Jared got a new job and he's going to be too busy to keep it up. So Steve and I have been talking, and we're going to keep that stream alive for the IDP 411. We're probably going to change the format up a little bit. Won't be doing it every week, but I'll be on there tonight with a couple of guests. Talking about the IDP Army Invitational League. Shout out to all the people in there. You guys can hear about that if you tune into the feed tonight or tomorrow, whenever it gets uploaded. So let's go ahead and talk about the top IDP 1-2-3 scores from week 6. So for your defensive line, Calais Campbell came through with a 39-point game in IDP 1-2-3 scoring. 3 sacks will do that. It was good to have him, kind of pop back up on our radar. He's been kind of quiet past couple of weeks, but the big man reminding you, he can still get it done. That linebacker, we had Devin White, 33-point game. Right on his heels was Levante David, but they both had fantastic games. It was fun to watch them in that afternoon game this week. If there was any positives to them only having 2 games on in the afternoon, it was that I could actually focus on that game. And it was fun to watch the Packers implode a little bit. And it was fun to watch the Tampa Bay defense and offense, kind of get in their bag. So, and then talk about prime time. We had Buda Baker with 36 points. He probably won some people their weeks, just kind of like Kenyon Drake did. So shout out to the Arizona Cardinals and the fantasy production y'all helping people out with. Yeah, because Buda Baker, 36 points. He had a sack. He had an interception. It was an all-around good day for Buda Baker. He's definitely in contention for the fantasy defensive back 1. Even Jamal Adams has been that guy for me, since I started doing this. Buda Baker's been right there on his heels. Jamal Adams does offer a lot more in the, the impact play department. Buda Baker is traditionally more of just a tackle guy. He can get a sack every now and then. He's already got 2 this year, which matches his career high. So that's pretty good, pretty nice to see. But Monday night was his first interception of his career. So, he only has a handful of forced fumbles, but he has good pass deflection numbers and decent tackle for loss numbers. So he's in contention. The fact that he stays healthy and just the tenacity with which he plays, I'm going to be doing in my defense. That's the Dynasty Nerds IDP show that's on their YouTube channel. I'm going to be talking about him on my next episode, and I'm having an internal debate on whether Buda Baker or Jamal Adams is going to be my defensive back 1 going forward. Jamal Adams, he's been banged up this year. He was banged up last year. He also plays tenaciously too. So, but Buda's a little bit more of a smaller package. He's the real honey badger. I tweeted that out the other night. And he's healthy and he's fierce. So that'll be a fun thing to have the internal debate about. So let's see here. So those were your top sleeper guys, or your top IDP 1, 2, 3 scores from this past week. So let's go ahead and jump into the player news and injuries. Go through that quickly, go through some notes, and then go through the rankings. So injury updates: Miles Jack re-injured his ankle this last week. That was a bummer. I was a little worried about him coming back so soon anyway. So we're going to have to expect him to be out for at least a couple of weeks. I know Dakota Allen hurt his ankle or his knee or something. So I'm not sure who's going to be filling in there right now. Follow me on Twitter at the T-Shirts Are Drunk, like I said. And if I hear anything or see anything, I'll retweet that or mention that. Devin Bush, torn ACL, season-ending IR. He wasn't having a great season. I kind of had highlighted that on my last show. I mean, obviously, you don't want him to go out like this. There's no, but the redemption story is he'll be back next year. He's a buy low candidate in Dynasty, but, bummer he tore his ACL, but elite athletes is a fairly common sports injury. You're looking at 9 months, so he should be back fully by camp next year. So Devin Bush, hope all your rehab and all that goes well, man. Josh Allen, defensive end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Knee injury kept him out this week. His knee injury's been bothering him. His production has not been very great this season. It's been okay, not great. So monitor that. I don't know if he's going to play this week or not. It was like a last-second scratch, too, for him. So, people had to rush out and get him out of their lineups. He practiced limitedly, at least up until the end of last week, I believe. So, like I said, that one kind of caught a lot of us by surprise. Kyle Van Noy was out this last week 6, with a groin injury. You want to monitor that. And then Tay Crowder from the New York Giants, he was he had a big game. I mean, he finished top 3 at linebacker in IDP 1, 2, 3. He was like 29.3 points. But he had a hamstring injury late in the game, and they put him on IR earlier this week. So Thursday night game, David Mayo. I guess we're going to see some David Mayo out there with Blake Martinez tonight. But unfortunately, Tay Crowder, he had a breakout game, and we lost him just like that. So what can you do? All right, that's pretty much all the injury updates I have. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, and I'll keep those updated as well. All right, so let's talk about some notes here. So I'm going to start with some defensive line notes. Chase Winovich this last week, his snaps dipped to 34%. It's kind of an inexplicable dip. He's been playing a high number of snaps so far this season. So that was kind of weird, something to monitor. He might not be necessarily an every week start. I don't know if he had an injury or concussion or something. I honestly didn't see anything about that. So I just chalked it up to Patriots defense just being weird. I mean, Juwan Bentley decided this was the week he was going to show up. So Larry Ogunjobi, this is an interesting one. He outsnapped Sheldon Richardson 55-47 this week. Richardson has started out the season pretty hot. I mean, he's been playable as a DL3, low-end DL2. In a DT1, honestly, if you're in a DT specific league, but his pace is kind of slowed down. Larry Ogunjobi got some run this week, so that's an interesting one to watch because I love Larry Ogunjobi. He's always been a guy like that I could just pick up and play in my redraft leagues when I needed a DL. And the low snaps kind of made him a tough sell this year, but with him getting the more snaps this past week, that's something I'm going to watch, and he might be back in play towards the middle and end of the season. Chase Young, 92% of snaps in week 6, so that's good. I mean, basically that means he's fully healthy as far as I can tell. Didn't do a lot with it, but you can put him back in your lineups pretty confidently. Brandon Graham, currently a top 10 defensive lineman, an IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, DL8. He's a boomer bust guy, but has the Giants and then Dallas in the next 2 weeks. And, Dallas has given up a lot of sacks. I mean, I think Daniel Jones has been sacked like 17 times. He's like 3rd or 4th most sacked quarterback in the league. That's a plus matchup. Then Dallas, their offensive line is all backups right now. They got a backup quarterback. Zeke's fumbling out of his mind. So Brandon Graham's a sleeper to enter the bye week. His bye week in week 9 is a top 5 DL, in my opinion. He's got 2 good matchups coming up. Plays tonight. I've got him in my rankings. I'll just go ahead and hop forward just a little bit here. I've got him right now in my rankings, I think, at 24. Probably a little low, but it's early in the week. I don't necessarily want to, Thursday night game, still top 24 play. But But he definitely has the upside to finish higher than that. Let's put it that way. So I thought that was interesting. Like I said, if you can go get him, he's kind of an older guy, but you can play him confidently. Let's put it that way. Emmanuel Ogbah breakout seems to be happening right now. He's currently top 12 defensive lineman. He is on bye week this week, but he's had at least half a sack in each of the last 5 games. The snaps are there. They're intact week in and week out. If somebody drops him in your redraft leagues, or somebody's not valuing him or not playing him or not, noticing him, he's definitely a guy you're going to want to, kind of get on your team, try to acquire, especially in this point in the year. There's a lot of waiver wire transactions going on. So, people are dropping guys they should not be dropping to go get a player. So, and that's a real thing. So go check. There's several guys I saw dropped yesterday because of bye weeks that I 100% have claims in on. Kind of wild stuff. I won't mention anything here in case I know several of you listen to this are in some of my leagues, so don't want you to know what my evil plan is. All right, let's slide on down to linebacker notes. Spillane came in to fill in for Devin Bush. He's probably the waiver wire out of the week. I saw him added. He's a guy that I saw added in basically all of my IDP leagues. I didn't get him anywhere, I don't think. I saw him go in fab budget leagues, prices anywhere from $3 to I think $45. I think most of those leagues are like $100 or $200. I think in most of the leagues I play in, that's around the fab that we have. So that just gives you a range of what people were thinking when they went to get him this week. I mean, he was the hottest out of the week though, easily. Vince Williams is a waiver wire ad as well if he's still available. He currently is tied league leader for tackles for loss. He has 10 tackles for loss, and so does TJ Watt. So Vince Williams, maybe he's not getting the prolific tackle numbers that you want from your traditional linebacker, but I mean he's getting behind the line of scrimmage, so that's good. And there's a defense in the Steelers there that's a habit. That's not an outlier. That's the norm. So he's a guy you should own right now. Manage. BJ Goodson. This is kind of an fun one. I wrote an article in the offseason for Dynasty Nerds about the Browns linebackers and how there's always been one for the past 4 or 5 years that's produced as a top 12 guy. I wrote about all the linebackers that were basically there except for BJ Goodson, and is a breakout candidate, and apparently BJ Goodson's the guy I should have mentioned. Although he did get traded there kind of late in the offseason, or ended up there late in the offseason. But he's quietly a top 15 linebacker right now. And he's the only Browns linebacker that you can play confidently. So if somebody's out there undervaluing him, or if he's even just sitting on waivers, which he's sitting on some waivers in some leagues that I'm in. Of course, these are kind of more shallow IDP redraft leagues, but he doesn't have the name to command the attention to be picked up. So after this, I'm hoping he is not on any waiver wires. Kyler Fackrell played 100% of snaps this last week. He's been producing again. IDP flex option for sure. Big waiver out of the season, honestly. And the people that have added him, I've seen them get added and plugged and played, and he's worked out pretty well. He plays tonight. Another good matchup for him. They get Carson Wentz, Carson Wentz is now officially the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He overtook Deshaun Watson and Joe Burrow for that honor. So that's a good matchup. That's a plus matchup for a guy that a lot of people probably won't see coming. So if you got him in your lineups, I got him in several lineups now. Play him confidently. Kyler Fackrell. Chris Barnes, waiver ad. If Kirksey isn't back this week, I don't think Kirksey is going to be back this week. That's what he is, though. He's a waiver ad. I mean, it's a tough week for bye weeks. If you need a play, you can play him. But I'm not going out of my way or anything to put him into a lineup. Tay Crowder, I already mentioned him. Finished top 3 this week, but he's injured. So, and then Terrell Johnson from the Texans, back-to-back good games. McKinney is done for the season, so he could be a plug and play the rest of the way. I came up against him this last week, and he helped my arch nemesis in one of my dynasty leagues beat my ass. So I'm very well aware of what Johnson's capable of at this point. So he's a good linebacker. I mean, for IDP production at the very least. 2 back-to-back weeks, good production. I mean, that's what you're looking for. So, defensive back notes, real quick. Jabril Peppers did play 99% of snaps again this week. So he seems to be fully healthy. So that's what you like. He's basically playing the same role, that you want, box safety, not lining up free overly too much. He's not really rushing the passer, so you're probably not gonna get like any sacks or anything from him like Buda Baker or Chuck Clark or a few other defensive backs. So that probably lowers his ceiling a little bit rest of the way. But I mean, he's still Jabril Peppers, and he's still on a team that's playing a lot of defensive snaps. So he should probably be top 20 the rest of the season if he can stay healthy. That's kind of where I'm projecting him. The ceiling that I thought he had just isn't there this season. And then here's another final defensive back note for the day, or just kind of general note, but current forced fumble leader in the NFL. Who would you guess that is? Who has the most forced fumbles in the NFL right now, off the top of your head? Probably think, TJ Watt, maybe Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald. You'd be wrong. The forced fumble leader right now is actually a cornerback, and his name's Marlon Humphreys. He has 4 forced fumbles on the season. Also, was 4 quarterback hits, 2.5 sacks. So Marlon Humphreys having a big season for you. If you got him in a cornerback league, you're basically running the show right now. Rest up Mike Hilton, who did get injured. I should have mentioned that earlier. Mike Hilton got injured in that game, put up a 0 after being, a lights out player all season. So not really sure if he's going to be back this week or not. That's another thing we're going to need to monitor. But back to Marlon Humphreys, 4 forced fumbles on the season. That's big stuff. Myles Garrett has 3. Jason Pierre-Paul has 3. And then there's several guys that have 2. Chuck Clark, Aaron Donald, Patrick Queen. A lot of forced fumbles being forced out here by the Baltimore, actually. Now I'm looking at it. Deshaun Elliott, he's got 2 forced fumbles as well. So, I mean, Chuck Clark, Deshaun Elliott, Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphrey. Woo! Boys putting in work out there. Baltimore defense is saving their ass right now. All right, back to IDP. So that's all my kind of news, notes, kind of update stuff. I know it's kind of long-winded, but I felt all that stuff needed to be said. The rankings, you guys can go find those and look at them with your eyeballs, idparmy.com. And you can search me on Fantasy Pros. That's, pretty easy to do. So I wanted to give you some more interesting or thoughtful comments on the IDP scene at large right now. So, all right, let's hop into the rankings. And as always, we will start with the defensive line. So, number 1 this week, defensive line, we got Myles Garrett. 2, Joey Bosa. 3, Chris Jones. 4, Alden Smith. 5, Aaron Donald. 6, Chase Young. 7, Frank Clark. 8, Cameron Jordan. 9, Montez Sweat. 10, Jason Pierre-Paul. 11, Grady Jarrett. And 12, J.J. Watt. Obviously, Myles Garrett at 1. Like I said, Joe Burrow is still the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL right now. And Myles Garrett he's playing some of the best football he's ever played. 3 forced fumbles on the season, right behind Marlon Humphreys. He's right behind Aaron Donald as the sack leader. I think Aaron Donald has 7.5 sacks right now, and Myles Garrett has 7. So I mean, he's right on his tail. What more is there to say? He's going to probably finish out the season. It's really a race between Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald to see who finishes out the season in that actual number 1 spot. Joey Bosa at 2, coming back after the bye week. It's good to have another good defensive lineman back in our lineups. He's got a pretty good matchup against Jacksonville, and he's Joey Bosa. So he's going to be a top-level producer on tackle end, and he's always going to be good for, probably good for a sack. Chris Jones at 3 gets Denver. Divisional matchup, probably be a tougher game, but there's nothing about Denver that really says they're going to be successful against the Chiefs. And this Chiefs team, they bounced back. They had a tough win, but they bounced back against the Bills, who are solid. I think they're going to kind of toy with Denver. Denver may end up keeping up again just because that whole divisional aspect of things, but I think Chris Jones is going to get home on Drew Lock a couple times, and if that happens, he's going to be in for a long day. So we got Alden Smith at 4. You can't really lower him. He's had a high floor and a high ceiling this season, 2 number 1 overall finishes so far, going all the way back to week 1. He gets Washington. They're not doing anything impressive offensively, so he should be able to have success there as well. Aaron Donald coming in at 5. Gets Chicago. That should be a plus matchup for him. Every matchup's a plus matchup for Aaron Donald. We know Aaron Donald has a very low floor, like all defensive linemen. He's also got an extremely high ceiling. I just kind of think that Nick Foles is, he's a wily veteran, and he does make mistakes, but his mistakes are usually more interceptions. He doesn't make, forced fumbles aren't really a big issue for him. Holding on to the ball too long, he usually knows what's happening around him quick enough to where he's going to mitigate some of the upside that Aaron Donald has this week, I think. So that's why he's not up there in my top 3 this week. But I mean, he's still top 5. So Chase Young at 6. Andy Dalton and the Dallas Cowboys aren't looking like anything special. That line is completely banged up, and Chase Young is getting the snaps. Like I said, 92%. That injury should not be holding him back very much, or at least the coaching staff doesn't think it is. Frank Clark, again, he gets Denver. There's nothing about Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos that says that they're not going to struggle with the pressure that the Chiefs are probably going to bring. Like I said, they could still end up keeping up. They do have some talented pieces there. They get Melvin Gordon back this week. But I think that these defensive linemen are going to eat this week for the Chiefs. Cameron Jordan coming in at 8. Gets Carolina. That's a good matchup. Another divisional game. Montez Sweat gets Dallas. Again, it's kind of the same thing with Chase Young. That line is destroyed, and it's Andy Dalton. He's not playing as many snaps. Montez Sweat is not playing as many snaps as Chase Young, but he is still a top-tier option, I think, at pretty much every week. I mean, he's shown me enough this year to know that he's a guy that I definitely want on my teams going forward. So let's see who else we got here. 10, Jason Pierre-Paul, Las Vegas Raiders, and then Grady Jarrett, 11, J.J. Watt, 12. J.J. Watt's got a little bit tougher matchup against Green Bay, so that's why he's a little bit lower this week. And then we have Jason Pierre-Paul here at 10, Raiders. I mean, Jason Pierre-Paul has been successful all season. You can't take him out of your top lineup just because the talent's there, the track record of success there throughout his career. So that's where he's at. I'm going to mention my honorary guys for sleeper designations. Obviously, that's where I play most of my ball, my fantasy. So I want to bring those guys up. I'm just reading off my fantasy rankings right now. But if I were, if we're on sleeper, you have edge designations. I'm going to be slotting TJ Watt into this list at number 3. They got a nice matchup this week. Who do the Steelers play? Oh my gosh, I lost my tab. Steelers play Tennessee. I mean, he's TJ Watt. You can't. He's kind of like Myles Garrett. You can't. And Aaron Donald, like, you can drop him out of 1 from week to week, but you really can't drop him out of the top 5 ever. 3 at 9, I have in that list on sleeper at 9, I would have Shaq Barrett just ahead of Jason Pierre-Paul, who's at 10 here, or 11 or 10. Sorry. He's playing like he has second most pressures in the league, I think, right now, behind only Aaron Donald. He's playing really, really good football. So anyone who was like, oh, I need to see it again from Shaq Barrett, you're seeing it right now. Like I said earlier this season, hopefully you bought the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that was around him, especially kind of perpetuated by the IDP community, the disbelief in his ability to repeat, because he's having a great season right now. I know he put up a 0 this last week, and you can point to that and say, look, he's terrible. But, I mean, no one's going to point to that 2 that Aaron Donald put up a couple weeks ago and say he's terrible. So these are just the facts. If I come in at 11 here, I would put Zadarius Smith. Harold Landry would come in at 14 this week. Khalil Mack would come in at 15, and Bradley Chubb would come in at 16. These are the players that are not going to be on my actual Fantasy Pros rankings in the defensive line section, because that's not how they're set up on Fantasy Pros. But I'll go ahead and finish out the 12th or 13 through 24 for you guys here, and then we'll move on to linebackers. At 13, I have Cameron Hayward this week. 14, Akeem Hicks. 15, Melvin Ingram. 16, Jonathan Allen. 17, Stephon Tuitt. 18, Brian Burns. 19, Carrie Hyder. 20, Eric Armstead. 21, Max Crosby. 22, Demarcus Lawrence. 23, Chase Winovich. And 24, Brandon Graham. Like I said, obviously those other players that I just brought up, they would be in this range, Za'Darius all the way down to Bradley Chubb. They're all in this kind of teens area. They're going to be high end twos this week on Sleeper. That's where your designation is. But a couple of matchups I want to highlight. Jonathan Allen is high up here. Like I said, he's Washington Redskin. I think he gets home for a sack this week. Not Redskin, Washington football team. They get Dallas. They get Andy Dalton led Dallas Cowboys. So that's a great matchup right now. That line is banged up. He's a first rounder. I expect him to get home to it. Another guy who, like I said, if TJ Watt is always going to be in your top 5, to it at this point in the season for me, he's basically always going to be in my top 25. He's just been consistently good. I mean, Cam Hayward. I mean, if Bud Dupree was DL eligible, unfortunately he's not. He'd probably be up here too. He's playing lights out football, by the way. And he could still be played as a linebacker too, in my opinion, pretty much every week. Other guys I want to highlight, Carrie Hyder is getting dropped just a little bit in my rankings. He's been consistently pretty good, but he really hasn't shown to have himself to have a high ceiling. So I dropped him down to about 19 this week. He's a low end 2. He gets New England, so that's be a good tackle matchup, assuming they run a lot. They really can't pass in New England right now. They need a lot of help. And other guys I want to highlight here, Demarcus Lawrence at 22. You guys know I'm not a Demarcus Lawrence fan. He's let me down so much over the past 2 years. But his snaps are on the rise. He did have an okay game, not a good game, an okay game. I think he had like 14 points last week. So I mean, for him, that's basically elite anymore. But you can play him, along with Max Crosby, Chase Winovich area. These guys are good for, their ceiling right now is maybe a sack and a forced fumble and like 3 tackles. That's not bad though. But that's the ceiling that they kind of have right now. So don't expect them to go win you your week. If they do, that would be awesome. But you can play them as low end 2s right now. That's kind of where I'm feeling them. And that's good for Demarcus Lawrence. I mean, I was viewing him as a 3, as a low end 3, up until the snaps kind of started trending back up. So good for him. All right, let's transition to the linebackers for the week, ladies and gentlemen. So number 1 at linebacker this week, we got Blake Martinez. Number 2, Jalen Smith. Number 3, Roquan Smith. 4, Bobby Wagner. 5, Zach Cunningham. 6, Levante David. 7, Devin White. 8, Jordan Hicks. 9, Micah Kiser. 10, Forsaid Olakun. Number 11, Kaiser White. And number 12, Demario Davis. Blake Martinez plays tonight. Blake Martinez is just like the most consistent high upside linebacker in IDP right now. He's just a tackling machine. He has been for years, and he's just doing it again. So he sits at number 1, even going into Thursday night. It's kind of sketchy, kind of scary to have a guy that high on my rankings, because he could go out and bomb, and I'm going to look like an idiot. But I just have that much confidence in Blake Martinez. 2, Jalen Smith. He's been good too. I mean, he's basically the same situation as Blake Martinez. I mean, he's always up there. He's never really let you down yet this season. He gets the Redskins. He could get home for some disruptive plays for sure. Roquan Smith at 3, Bobby Wagner 4, Zach Cunningham 5, kind of your staples. Levante David and Devin White. It was good to see them bounce back a little bit. I had them just a hair lower last week. I know some people were kind of getting frustrated with Devin White. He has 2 back-to-back games. Is he any good anymore? Should I get rid of him? And then he comes back. He's the number 1 linebacker again this season on a week. So the upside for Devin White is number 1. So if you want to bench him to prove a point, or you want to trade him to stop dealing with the headaches, I mean, that's a kind of headache I wish I had right now. Let's put it that way. Levante David, again, another guy, they're just always going to be back-to-back in my rankings, and they're always going to be high. I can't imagine a world where these guys are ever outside my top 15, unless they're hurt or broken or something of that nature. Micah Kiser or Jordan Hicks, I mean, he was okay this last week. I think he had 10, 11, 12 tackles on Monday night. He obviously got outshined by Buda Baker, but he just dropped an interception too. So, I mean, he could have had an even bigger night. Jordan Hicks, you should play him every week. Micah Kiser, monster. I mean, that's a good way to describe him this season. Came back from the injury. He had a good game. That's what you wanted to see. You can plug and play him in every week as a top 10 guy. Basically, he's never going to really let you down. That system for linebackers there for the Rams is just productive. Olakun, man, this guy is he's just about as solid as they get. I mean, even the week that he didn't do anything really in the game, like snap-wise, I think he got hurt. He had like 3 or 4 forced fumbles that one week. He still saved his week with the big plays. Came back this week, 14 tackles, I believe. I mean, he's just all over the place. Tackle for loss. He's right now probably the best linebacker on that team. I know, Deion Jones finally did something this last week, but Olakun's been doing stuff all season. He should be locked into a starting position on your team. Kazir White, same kind of thing. It's kind of crazy that these guys have put themselves into this position, but they're weekly top options. So I'm ranking them as such. They're not the big names on their team at linebacker, but they're the producers right now. And then Demario Davis needs no introduction. Back off the bye week, back in the top 12 where he belongs. He's a walking big play. He's one of the most veteran and tenacious linebackers in the league. I mean, he loves to rush the passer too. So getting Carolina, divisional matchup, like I said, they've had an extra week to game plan and all that. So I expect him to be dialed into this game, and I expect a big game out of Demario Davis. So we will go to the 13 through 24. At 13 this week, Devondre Campbell, 14, Shaq Thompson, 15, Josie Jewell, 16, Alexander Madison, 17, Nathan Gary, 18, Joe Schoberg, 19, Neville Hewitt, 20, Rashaan Evans, 21, Fred Warner, 22, Dre Greenlaw, 23, Matt Milano, and 24, Avery Williamson. That doesn't sound right. Let me double check this. I don't remember having Josie Jewell that high. I might have to update these real fast. Anyway, this is what I'm looking at right now, so I guess I'll just work through those. The guys I want to highlight in this group, I guess actually I'm just going to move Josie Jewell down right now. I don't know why I have him that high, guys. That's throwing me off. I'll leave Johnson. I'm going to move him down a little too. Pardon. All right, so Devondre Campbell, 13. He's been solid for Arizona. I mean, he's kind of like Jordan Hicks. You just don't take him out of your lineup. Shaq Thompson, he hasn't been everything we wanted him to be this season so far, but he hasn't been bad. He's had a couple of big games. I expect him to, keep kind of floating around where he's at, kind of be a mid-level linebacker too. He could pop at any time, though. Nathan Gary, everyone hates him. Eagles linebacker, he's the worst. He sucks. Get him out of here. He plays a ton of snaps, and he gets a ton of tackles. That's exactly what you want in IDP. Joe Schoberg had a big game finally. I've had him a little lower this last week. Of course, this the first week I kind of dropped him out of my top 15. He blows up, so I got him back up in my top 20. I got him at 16 right now. With Miles Jack going out, we don't know who the replacement is. Joe Schobert's a leader, so I expect him to get out there and get to work. 17, I have Neville Hewitt, Avery Williamson at 22. I might flip-flop them, but I know Hewitt just kind of had a down game. Williamson is playing very well, but I think it'll be one more week before I move Avery Williamson ahead of Hewitt. I kind of want to see it one more time, and I want to see the continued health of Avery Williamson. 18, Rashaan Evans. I have him ahead of Jayon Brown at this point. I love Jayon Brown. I know he's playing more snaps, but Rashaan Evans is just playing really well this season. He's getting me the points that I want, and he's doing it more efficiently than Jayon Brown. So I don't know what's up with Jayon Brown. He's just not, I'm saying this, of course, he's going to go out and blow up this week, but he just hasn't been what I wanted him to be, and I know what a lot of people projected him to be this season. So Fred Warner, he is kind of doing what I projected him to do. I mean, he hasn't really been a top option at linebacker, but he's an every week play. I got him at 19 this week. Back-to-back with him, I got Greenlaw, Matt Milano. Hopefully he's coming back off that injury this week. Got him at 21. And then, like I said, Avery Williamson, 22. And I moved Johnson and Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell down to 23 and 24. I think you can play them comfortably as linebacker twos, but I'm not expecting any I'm not expecting a monster game out of them against the Chiefs, unfortunately. Just to give you an idea, some guys I have right outside that area. I got Tremaine Edmonds at 25 and B.J. Goodson at 26. And I got Jamie Collins at 27 and Danny Trevathan at 28. So that's just a little – go check out the rankings on site, guys, idparmy.com. You can see my full rankings on the week there. So those are my linebackers for the week. Let's go through the defensive backs for the week. All right. Number 1 this week, Buda Baker. Number 2, Landon Collins. Number 3, Jeremy Chin. Number 4, Jordan Poyer. Number 5, Jesse Bates. Number 6, Jamal Adams. Number 7, Tracy Walker. Number 8, John Johnson. 9, Antoine Winfield Jr. 10, Logan Ryan. 11, Justin Simmons. And 12, Terrell Edmonds. Buda Baker's on top this week. Like I said, I'm having an internal debate with myself who is the DB1 in Dynasty based on production, based on health, based on where we're at right now, all that stuff. Buda Baker, at least for this week, is number 1 for week 7. Just you can always count on Buda Baker, so that's a good feeling. Landon Collins, he's a great buy low candidate right now because he has not been producing, but historically he's been a top producer. He's disappointing, but he's not even bad this year. He's still in the top 20, I believe, at defensive back. He's only 20, 25 points behind being a top 5 guy, so he just needs a pop game, and he'll be up there, and people will be viewing him a little differently. Jeremy Chin, like I said, every week he's going to be a top guy. He's a DB playing linebacker snaps. He has first interception of his career this last week. So did Buda Baker. Jeremy Chin did it in the first 5 games of his career, or 6 games, I guess. Jordan Poyer, he had a pretty bad they just kind of got beat up this last week by the Chiefs. He had a pretty bad penalty against him, just acting up. But Jordan Poyer, you know what he's capable of. He's always a top option at the end of the season. He's an impact player, and he can get tackles. So I expect with Matt Milano out there on the field this week, knock on wood, that this defense cleans it up a little bit and they produce for you for IDP. Jesse Bates, 5. Great season so far for Jesse Bates, and he's one of the most consistent tacklers in the league. You can count on him for 100 every season. So I expect him to do big things again this week. It's Cleveland. Baker's not playing necessarily lights out, and they like to run the ball a lot. So hopefully he gets in there for some tackles. Jamal Adams is at 6. I'm not sure how healthy he is. I'm not even, I think he's going to play this week. I think they'll probably have a questionable tag on him. We'll find out more about that as the week goes on. But I have him at 6 right now. I feel like that's kind of where I would comfortably play him. If he's going to play, you want him in your lineups. But there's a few other guys that I would probably just this week at least play a little bit ahead of them. If I had the option, if I had Landon Collins and Buda Baker and Jamal Adams is going to be on the bench this week, just as an example. Tracy Walker, 7. John Johnson, 8. These guys are staples in your top 10. Strong safeties, they get tackle numbers, and they're impact players. They can get the pass deflections, they can get tackles for loss. Antoine Winfield, Logan Ryan. These are some very versatile safeties. I mean, they're rushing the passer. They're getting tons of tackles. Logan Ryan, we're quick to forget he was the number 1 overall defensive back last season by a half-decent margin. So he's obviously found a home in the New York Giants that lets him produce, same kind of way. So good on him. Justin Simmons, an impact player. Again, another guy that gets tons of pass deflections, which, 3-point play and IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, that makes up for, a missed tackle here or there. And then Terrell Edmonds, there's nothing flashy at all about Terrell Edmonds. He's the most kind of boring defensive back to ever play football, but he can get you, his tackle floor is like 4 or 5. So that's his floor, like absolute floor. With Devin Bush going out, he's pretty much a lock for 7, 8 tackles a game. He might get you a pass deflection every once in a while. So consistent production. I don't think he's going to pop, but I think he has as good a chance as any to kind of just float around that, 16 to 22 point game just off being on the field. So those are my top 12. I'll read you 13 through 24. I got Jonathan Abram at 13, Taylor Rapp at 14, Von Bell at 15, Jabril Peppers at 16, Josh Jones 17, Tyrann Mathieu 18, Justin Reed 19, Mike Hilton tentatively, hopefully he plays at 20, Kenny Vaccaro 21, 22, Juan Thornhill 23, Marcus May, and 24, Trey Boston. Guys I want to highlight in there, Von Bell finally this last week came through and actually had a decent IDP game. He had more solos and assists, so that was good to see. He's still the guy he's still playing a lot of snaps there. I think he's played 100% of snaps on the season. So he and Jesse Bates are still, at the end of the season, they're going to have good numbers. I know he hasn't necessarily blown up yet this season, but it was good to see that. Like I mentioned earlier, Jabril Peppers, he's at 16, played 99% of snaps this last week. He plays tonight, so I'm expecting or anticipating a good game out of him. Hopefully he can show up and show out a little bit against the Eagles. Other guys I wanted to highlight in this group. Tyrann Mathieu, he's down a little lower. I've kind of had him floating up a little higher, closer to 12, 13 most of the season, but he hasn't really had a prolific IDP game yet this season. And I mean, we're in week 7. Maybe that's just not what he's going to do this season. Is kind of how I'm viewing it. I say all this, and I expect him to come out and just finish top 3, obviously. But he's gets Denver. I guess there's a good turnover situation there with those guys up front being disruptive. But I don't know. He just hasn't jumped off the page at me this season at any point so far. I still think because of who he is and the position he plays, he's going to be. I'm playing him as a top 20 guy. I have him at 18 this week, but I've been a little disappointed in Tyrann Mathieu, if I'm being honest with myself. Marcus May, he had the butt interception this last week, which is kind of funny. He basically saved his IDP day. He's been playing more free safety, I've been seeing, but we know the ceiling for a top end week is there. So against Buffalo, who is running a lot of plays and throwing the ball a lot, I like Marcus May this week. That's why I have him at 23. And Trey Boston, 24. He's just like reliable. You can just always play Trey Boston and know he's going to get some points for you. Nothing special about him, really. He gets the New Orleans Saints, but I like him this week as a guy that, in a week where we have the entire Ravens backfield missing, we have, some other bye weeks going on, I want the comfort of knowing that I'm going to get some points out of a guy. And that's Trey Boston for me this week. So that's the name of the game at this point of the season, is make sure that you are getting points on your lineup. Make sure that you're playing some of these boom guys, some of these, these spike weeks show up in some of your positions and kind of mitigate some of those floor players that you have. But yeah, that's my top 24 defensive backs for the week. Guys, I'm sorry I was a little bit choppy today. I got up really early to record this. I'm pretty tired. But the show must go on. We are into week 7. The season is just cresting over the top. Half of your leagues are going to, quit after this week, or half the players in your leagues will quit. So it's a good time to be making trades. I've been a little tradey this week. I haven't really done a lot of trades since probably the first couple of weeks before the season started. But this week I've been making some moves and, just kind of exploring my options for how the season is going to go, or how I want to set myself up for the rest of the way. So I'm going to answer a quick question here, do a little, mailbag segment. This is from the Destination Devi chat room, the IDP channel we have over there, from Jamie. He said, rest of season, Chuck Clark or Collins? And Jamie Collins. And that was a tough question. I really thought about it for a while because, like I said, Jamie Collins is not producing right now at an elite level like we kind of had hoped, especially on a defense that lacks a prolific inside linebacker, and the offense is kind of sluggish, to put it nicely. So I thought about it for a while. I'm still leaning Collins on that question for the rest of the season. And here's why. I mean, it really just, again, it comes down to the known production. With Collins not playing prolifically, but still being a top 20, 24 guy right now at this point in the season, I expect a spike game to come eventually, and hopefully a couple. And you look at his career, the worst tackle season he's had is 97, I believe, and he played an abbreviated season the year that happened. So the tackle floor is intact historically. The big plays are intact historically. I think he had a season of over 20 impact plays. I think that was 2016, 17. Wasn't that long ago, and he still floats up in the teens in impact plays. Those are 3-point plus plays. So Chuck Clark, I know he's playing lights out right now, and he was okay-ish down the stretch last year, but I'm still going to take the veteran known commodity at this point. But I really thought that was one of the better questions I've been asked. Rest of season questions. I actually got an email from Fantasy Pros about doing rest of season rankings for IDP. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that up to date or not. I'll let you guys know for sure, maybe on the live show on Sunday or on the next episode if I was able to get those into the system. But busy time of year, got a lot going on. So trying to just keep up with this, what I'm doing right now. I want to be consistent in that. So I want to give you guys these rankings for the week. But yeah, I appreciate that question, Jamie. Guys, like I said, jump into the Discord channels I'm in, the Destination Devy Discord for IDP Talk, and then jump on the fantasy football server, the official fantasy football server of Discord. And like I said, I'm doing an AMA on that Discord server tomorrow night. That'll be 8:30. So hopefully you can join me there. If not, you can find me and Steve on Sunday doing the Sunday IDP live cast, answering start sit questions. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you all this week. Again, apologies, I'm a little tired today, or this early in the morning, but good luck with your week 7 matchups. IDP Army, go out there, beat your opponent, show them what's up, and tell them who sent you.